Good morning, everyone. In today's lecture, we'll start our discussion with the characteristics of living organisms. As we already know that there are few characteristics which are restricted to the living organisms only. If we want to distinguish between a living and non-living, so we can easily distinguish on the basis of these characteristics. So the very first thing that the living organisms, they are made up of cells. So that is the cellular organization. As we have already read in our grade 8th that the organisms, they can be made up of cell, made up of tissue, organ system. In that way their level of organization will vary. So the very basic thing is what? That is, all the living organisms, they are made up of cells. So that is the cellular organization. Second, when we are going to talk about the living one, when they show the changes in the body, which is the quantitative change, easily which can be measured, which can be easily visualized, observed, a change in a height, a change in a physical growth, in the muscles pull on, or in the case where we are going to get any kind of wound and that particular tissue is repaired. In these cases, this all is the part of the growth. If in the case of plant, we can take an example. If we are going to pluck a flower, a new flower will going to arise on that particular plant. That means what? It doesn't mean that once that particular organ is removed, that tissue is removed, that cannot be repaired, that cannot be regained. It can be. That is all because that organism is living. Only the living organism have the capacity to repair themselves and to regain the shape, regain the structure by the divisions of the cells. So in that way they are going to show the growth. Next, the most important thing, when the organism is living, they are going to respond the external changes of environment, or what we can call the stimuli, the response to the stimuli. Stimuli is what? Just that factors to which we are going to respond, to which we are going to react. In the case when we talk about the responses, we can take a very simple example. If we people are going to face any kind of change in the environment as we are facing nowadays, that the outside environment is not favorable for us. Fine. So what we are doing to protect ourselves, how we are reacting to that particular change? By staying at home. So this is our response to the change environment. In the same way, when we talk about the lizard, the throughout the year the lizard is not visible, only during the summers. So what about the winters where it will go? That is the way that how the lizard is going to respond the change in the environment. As the winters approaches, they'll go for a sleep, that we call hibernation. So this is what? This is a respond to the changes in environment, and each and every organism can respond in different ways to adapt themselves in the environment. Next is the most important thing, that is the organisms, they are going to reproduce. The living organism, they will reproduce. So now the thing, when we talk about reproduction, it's not like that the organism which is living, if it will not reproduce, it is going to die. But if that particular species of an organism will not reproduce, in that case, that species can be extinct in the coming generations. Fine. Like if the human being is not capable, or he's not going to give the birth to the offsprings, in that case There is no possibility that he is going to die. But if the complete human population stop reproducing, then there will be no human. So this is the necessity in that way to continue the generations, to continue the life on earth. So all the living organism, they make the copies of themselves. They are going to reproduce in different ways. So when we talk about the single cell organism, they are simply divide by binary fission or budding. And the higher case, they'll show the different modes of reproduction. Fine. Now we'll move to the next part, that is, what are the living organisms made up of? As we have discussed that thing, they are made up of cells. So cell can be one in an organism, that we call unicellular. Cell can be many, we can call it multicellular. So how the unicellular organism and the multicellular organisms are different from each other? For just taking a look on it, we can just compare at our home or in any of that working place where we are working, if we are playing something, if a single person, if one individual is going to do something, so that is what we call the efficiency in performing that particular task will be little bit reduced compared to that of the group work. So the same happen over here. The organism which is made up of one cell, in these organisms, the one cell only perform all the functions, and they have very simple body design. They are least advanced organisms. Fine. And most of the prokaryotic cells, that is bacteria, they are unicellular. Few eukaryotic cells can also be unicellular. As they are only made up of one cell, so their adaptability to environment will reduce. There is no division of labor, no distribution of work. The same cell has to perform all the functions. In the case of multicellular organisms, as the organism is made up of many number of cells, and the cells will going to form the tissue, then the organ. In that way, there is specification, there is specialization of those particular tissues and organ to perform a specific task. Fine. We can just take an example of like human body. In our body, we have different organs. They perform different functions because they are specialized to perform that. Digestion is performed by digestive system, respiration is by respiratory system, nervous system help in control and coordination. So there is no such kind of mess in the body. Okay, otherwise there will be kind of a like the who will going to perform this particular function. That specialization is in higher organism, the organisms which are made up of many number of cells. Now when we talk about that human body, trillions of cells are there. So in that we cannot easily count them, and every day many number of cells from our body, they are get damaged, they get removed out of our body, so they can be repaired on the daily basis. The most important thing is what, in each and every organism there is a controlled division of the cells. That is, the growth is controlled. At particular stage you people are going to stop growing physically, but few cells in our body which will keep on dividing, keep on repairing themselves. Fine. This is all about the multicellular. So multicellular organisms are more advanced, highly complex. Okay, specialized tissues are there in them to perform the special functions in an organism, and made up of many number of cells. All the multicellular organisms are eukaryotic in nature, means they are made up of eukaryotic cells. Now the next is the shapes of the cell. as you have already read in your grade 8th also, that the variety in shapes, the variety in number, and the variety in size of the cells. So we'll just take a short overview of the same. In the case when we talk about the shapes, why the organisms which is made up of many number of cells have different types or different shapes of the cells. This is directly related to the function performed by the cell. So, what is this? That if there is any specific shape of the cell that is related to the function performed by it, that we can explain by the example which are visible on your screen. So, we'll take example of the very first, that is the nerve cell. The nerve cell is highly branched, as you can see over here. It is long. The reason is what? It has to transmit the nerve impulses, or we can simply say respond quick karna hai, so for that particular purpose it has to be long to pass that message, to respond to the external factors of environment, okay, covering the more distance in our body. When we talk about the sperm cell, as it is containing the tail, this tail is mainly responsible for the movement. So this is the specialization of this particular cell, help in movement. Now when we talk about this ovum cell, egg cell of the female, this is bigger in size. As it is bigger in size, it stores the food and help the zygote to grow. So when the fertilization is going to take place, at that time the stored food in the ovum is only going to nourish the growing or dividing zygote. Next, when we talk about the red blood cell, RBCs, they are discoid, little bit they are of this shape. So over here, if we talk about the saucers, that plates where we used to put our cup, if they'll be going to be flat in this way, so they'll be going to contain less amount of the particular tea, water, whatever, but this shape is going to contain more water, tea, as this is going to help in increasing the area, the surface area. So same happen with the RBCs, as they are little bit concaved from the center, so they will help in binding more and more oxygen. Simply we can say the shape of the RBC help in increasing the surface area for binding of more oxygen molecules. Hope I am clear with this. Next, when we talk about the size, now the very first thing when we talk about the size, we should know this thing, that what kind of units are used to measure the size of the cell. So from when we talk about the dimensions, they are usually expressed in microns, micrometers, angstroms. So these are the units which we usually use to measure the size of a cell. Fine. So the size is going to vary in what way? The cells are very small in size, microscopic in nature, and can be bigger in size as that of the ostrich egg, that is of centimeters in size, and that of the smallest one is 0.01 micrometer, so very minute, which cannot be easily visible through our naked eyes. So in that way the size of the cell is going to vary. Fine. Now there is no relation of the size of the cell with the size of an organism. This question answer you people are going to find out, that why there is no relation of the size of the cell with the size of an organism, or is there any relation between these two? I'll ask, the rat cells or the elephant cells, will they going to be vary in their size? So just find out the answer for the same. They're going to vary, or they'll be same, or something else is going to vary in them. Just find it out. Next, the last topic of this particular lecture, when we are considering the living organisms, they are broadly categorized into two. Either the living organism is eukaryote or either the living organism is prokaryote. Now, when we talk about this prokaryote and eukaryote, this is for the living organism. And when we talk about this eukaryotic, prokaryotic, TIC, that is for the cell. We are going to use this term for cell, and this term is for the organism. So, eukaryote organism, prokaryote organism, and eukaryotic cell means the eukaryotes are made up of eukaryotic cell, prokaryotes are made up of prokaryotic cells. Here we are going to tabulate few differences among these two cells. So the very first difference is the prokaryotic cell, on the basis of like what the name is there. So on the basis of that, the very first difference is the nuclear region, the sorry the nuclear region, that is called nucleoid, is not surrounded by the nuclear membrane. Simply we can say the prokaryotic cells don't contain the nuclear material enclosed into any kind of membrane. It is freely present in cytoplasm. But in the case of the eukaryotic cell, the nuclear material, it can be a DNA, RNA, it is enclosed in the nuclear membrane. So nuclear membrane that will develop structure of the nucleus is present in eukaryotic cell, or we can say the cells which contain well developed nucleus, that is eukaryotic. Fine, because the word caryon, this is Karyon, this term means nucleus. So the prokaryotic cells are those which are discovered before the discovery of the nucleus. We can say जब तक न्यूक्लियस की डिस्कवरी नहीं हुई थी, न्यूक्लियस का सेल के अंदर एस्टेब्लिशमेंट नहीं हुआ था, बना नहीं था वो स्ट्रक्चर, उससे पहले वाली सेल्स प्रोकैरियोटिक. all the bacterias all the bacterias they are coming under the prokaryotic cells, only the bacterias. And the eukaryotic, other than the bacterial group, all are coming under the eukaryotic one. Next, as they are very small and made up of only one cell, the prokaryotic one, they are very minute, and eukaryotic are fairly large as they are multicellular also. Single chromosome is present, only one chromosome in the case of prokaryotic, more than one chromosome in the case of eukaryotic. Next, nucleolus. Now, what is this nucleolus? A spherical structure. This is the cell, this is the nucleus, and a spherical dense structure inside the nucleus is called nucleolus. So this nucleolus is absent in the case of prokaryotic cell, and in the case of eukaryotic, nucleolus is present as it is responsible for the formation of few biomolecules in the cell. Now, membrane bound cell organelles are absent. Those organelles like mitochondria, chloroplast, or any other which are enclosed by the membranes, they are absent in the case of prokaryotes. And membrane bound cell organelles are present in the case of eukaryotes. And the last important point, prokaryotic cells, as they are least advanced one, so their division is very simple, only by binary fission or budding. But in the case of eukaryotic, there are the special type of cell division will be there, that is mitosis and meiosis, that we will discuss at the end of this lecture. sorry, end of the chapter, we'll take just a brief view of this. So this is for all about the multicellular, unicellular, prokaryotic and eukaryotic.